Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markel. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm so excited to be with you today for the Conscious Pivot podcast and have an incredible gentleman with me, at least virtually speaking. We're sharing a Zoom. You guys, some of you will be able to watch this and some of you just be listening to it. So clearly, if you're driving a vehicle, you're in a hunk of steel that's 4,000 pounds and you're trucking down the road, please don't watch. All right. Just be a good listener. Even that's kind of a distraction, but hopefully we'll distract you in a positive way. Really excited that we get to spend some time together today. And of course, as you guys already know, I'm not apt to introduce people, even though I've done that a lot in my life and being on stage and bringing folks on stage, that type of thing. But we've got nothing here to sell. We just want to be in service. And so I prefer always to hear from our guests a little bit about themselves, what they think is important in the moment that people know about them. And so I'm going to toss it over to you. Go ahead, if you could, introduce yourself to our audience and share a little bit about what's important to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. So in one word, it's purpose.
Well, let's start with your name.
yeah, I'll do that. Well, I could probably start with purpose as my name as well.
That's your first name, not even your middle name, right?
Right. So my name is Brandon Peele, and I'm a purpose guide. And what I do is I help people find their life's purpose. So I began this work about 5 years ago, shortly after doing my own purpose work with Jonathan Gustin, who is the founder of the Purpose Guides Institute. And it was an itch that I didn't know I had. You know, I had been on a journey for probably 7-8 years prior to that, and really was just kind of escaping the traditional American mindset. You know, I began my career in investment banking and venture capital and startups, and had a lot of like the normal markers or the traditional, orthodox markers of success, and hated it. And not hated the people or the industries or anything like that, but like there was something was like, I was like a rat in a cage. I was just like, I don't know what this is. Like I'm supposed to have won, and I did not win that game. And as it turns out, I just had my ladder leaned up against the wrong wall. I'd been climbing the wrong ladder. So so I jumped ship in business school, and while most of my colleagues went back to Wall Street or consulting, I went to India. I was like, I have got to figure out what's happening. So
you went to Wall Street and you went to India. That says a lot. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I went out to came back out to California, and just because I thought that's where personal development, spiritual development, sustainable business, where all this was going to happen, and whatever it was going to happen for me there. And so after basically a 7-year search, like going to India, meditating, landmark, mankind project, therapy, hallucinogens, burning man, just like really just trying to blow out the cobwebs of like what's real, discovered that there was such a thing as purpose discovery. And, that wasn't, I grew up in Chicago, like that wasn't a word people talked about. I thought happiness, wealth, girls, that sort of stuff. And so I didn't really ever have the right language to even ask the question, like, why am I here? It just wasn't in my frame. It was just like, make money, get married, wash, reprint, wash, repeat.
Do what everybody around you is doing. I mean, get heavy, right? Get fat, get rich, get fat.
I know. I come from I come from a long line of like thick neck guys, guys like that, watch the Bears and they're great. They're my buddies.
Oh, sorry. So then we got to add get pumped to it.
Yeah, get pumped. That's right. Get pumped.
Yeah,
get big. And so when I discovered purpose discovery work, working with Jonathan, that was like when the search was over. It's like, wow, there's actually a reason why I'm here, and I got to go do this thing. So, after our work together, I launched a company, and that had huge success, but I also started guiding on the side because people were asking me to guide them on their path. After about 18 months, my business partner and I were like, we're doing well, but like, we're actually not living our purposes doing this stuff. Like, we're making an impact, and or at least where our sales are increasing, we're growing distribution and major media outlets, all this kind of stuff. But like the whole reason why we started this was like to connect people's purpose to this like really kind of cosmic identity never really manifested. So we both pivoted, and he went to go study with Bill Plotkin, who's a soul underworld type guy in Colorado, and then I studied with Jonathan to do purpose, to get certified as a purpose guide. And I've been doing that ever since. As we've talked about, I have a number of courses, and I got a book coming out. And yeah, I'm as Jonathan calls me, the carnival barker of purpose. I'm just like, hey, everybody, look over here. This is the best. Step right up. I'm just so excited about it, and like I just want to share it. I want to share it in books. I want to share it on stage. I want to share it with my clients. I mean, that's who I am.
Yeah. Well, great opportunity then to share it right here, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrific. So, use the word pivot, and obviously that's, this is the Conscious Pivot podcast, which is about pivoting with intention, really. And when I say intention, what underlines intention is a purpose, right? You don't intend something without a purpose behind it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is the great symbiotic relationship between those things. So maybe you could dive into purpose with us a little bit, because I think it's one of the more challenging words for folks who've done some work on themselves. I mean, in a place, I grew up in New York, I grew up in Queens, and probably, not very dissimilar from maybe the place where you grew up in Chicago. And personal development, not even a term, nothing I would, like the only thing that would be close to that was the self-help section of the bookstore. When you used to go to a bookstore and see self-help and be like, well, what the heck is that? Well, maybe it's the diet book area, or so, I don't know. It never went in that area. I never read anything from there until I was similar to you, kind of running on the wheel. I used to describe it like a rat on the wheel. And I just, was trained to run. Because, bills to pay, people to take care of, responsibilities, houses, cars, kids, all that stuff. And I just, the answer was run faster. You want to be your own person. You want to be free. You want to enjoy your life, be happy, run faster, make more money. And then someday you'll have all the things you want, but that clearly is not the recipe. And I think people have to discover that for themselves. So it's easy for me, or not so easy for me to say it, because I lived it and was in great pain as a result of it. So I had to take myself off the wheel. That was a process. And that's part of this, this path, whether to me, it's a spiritual development path, but in a more generic sense, it's a personal development path. And yeah, I started to explore things like purpose. Then that word had a meaning to me. And I think people in this space, they've heard it now, they've done work on it, and yet still there's some, it's a little amorphous. Whereas when I first started to think about it, because I was, again, looking through life through a lens of business and being a lawyer and just, all that stuff. I when I heard the word purpose, I'm like, oh man, like you said, I like raised a flag, purpose, of course. That's what life is all about. That's what it has to be all about. It's purpose. I lack purpose, It's like, if I can just figure out my purpose, then my life's going to work. It makes sense,
Yeah.
Any light that you can shed on that, on the sort of the nuances of what that is, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to share an orienting framework, because there's a couple, I would say, moments that I would say were really powerful pivots for me. And so there's a model that comes, who knows how old it is, but it comes out of shamanism, that there's essentially a triple purpose of life. You've got the upper world, like kind of to become one with God, or like kind of, unitive intimacy, to really disappear the self and just, basically disappear and like have consciousness merge with the infinite, whatever your words are to describe that. And then there's a middle realm of, I'll call this like the realm of personal development, but it's like becoming an adult. There's a number of tasks there around, emotional authenticity, having a purpose-driven livelihood, giving and receiving love, experiencing joy, taking care of your body. Like, it's like adulthood 101 is that middle world. Like, how do you, inhabit this physical plane in a way that is like your purpose in a sense. And then the lower world is a realm of soul, and again, this isn't my framework. I got this from Bill Plotkin, who got it from, School of Lost Borders, who got it from the Paiute Indians, who got it from who knows where it really came from. But this lower world was the conversation that was silent in my upbringing, and there was nothing about it. There was either like, you'd be this, middle world genius, go out, make a lot of money, have fun and all that kind of stuff, or you leave that aside. And I was raised Catholic, so then it was like just transcend that and become pious, a saint of some sort, or Buddha. And that was the dichotomy. It was like, either be fully in the matrix or be fully out. And what was missing is that lower world, that soul awakening, was like where you could be a yes to both, where you could live your divinity while also kind of achieving and enjoying and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I was raised pretty much firmly in that capitalist, like American dream mentality. And so my first pivot was like right after business school. I went to India. I was on a Vipassana retreat, and the door had opened maybe about 6 months before that there was such a thing as God or an interconnected experience of reality, because I just read some articles in this personal development program I mentored in New York. And then when I got there, I think it was the fourth day of the 10-day silent meditation retreat. That's where like the upper world like identity really came through. Like I really got that I was part of it all, and that like at a experiential level, it existed cognitively for me before. And so from that point, like from say 2004 to 2011 almost, I was like just all about spirituality, like meditating, spending tons of time alone in nature, and just wanting to like leave. I mean, wanting to just completely leave this world. And obviously there's a huge disservice to my other gifts, right? Like I wasn't creating sustainable enterprises. I wasn't leading teams. I was basically saying, no, all of this is bad. So it was an important pivot, right? Because I had to explore this upper world, but I also like threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes. And that's a really key point in so many. Look, I'm a dad, and I have an 18-year-old son. Randy and I have 4 kids, and we have 3 girls and a boy. So this is kind of a male, father son kind of a thing, where I know I rejected my dad at a certain point. I rejected his teaching. I rejected his way of being, because I know, at the age I'm at now, that I needed to do that in order to establish my own identity. And, it's, I don't know that it's a have to. So I don't want to put it out there like it is a have to, but it's not surprising to me that pivot for you was a rejection on some level of what it was that was familiar and kind of was the grooves in the record, right? That you were programmed for you is the same thing with my son. Our son is like, he's rejecting some of those grooves in the record. And it's tough as a parent, because that part of what you're trying to do is model something that has a long-term sustainable likelihood of sustainable success. So that's what you're hoping to do as a parent, not perfectly, but the best you can do. So when someone rejects that for their own, to discover for themselves what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And of course, I came back to understanding that a lot of what my dad was modeling and teaching was really great and correct and have readopted it type of thing, you know. So great to not have that 10-year hiatus from, but I think that's so vital that that independently we're able to confirm or deny or confirm or reject what is true for us. And so, yeah, pick up the journey there, because I think a lot of people probably at that stage at a certain point where they've got to make a decision whether they just keep living a life that's based on someone else's methodology and program, and more likely than not, their methodology and their programming was someone else's before them, and they picked that up from them. And so it's just a question of whether you question or you don't question. So, you know, to kind of bring that full circle, as much as I know in our family, for example, I would love our son to just kind of trust that the path that we've taken is at least is a trustworthy path.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, you know, I don't know what his path will be. He's 18, who knows? But as I heard you telling that story, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I could see our son rejecting it all and going off to figure out what's going to make sense for him, so that he can know. And what is actually beautiful in that is that I hope that he has been raised to be independent thinking enough, to have trust in himself enough to actually do that. So in credit to your family that you had the trust in yourself. And I don't know if you've kind of looked at it this way before or not, but that you had the trust in yourself to do that is a credit to what they did with you as a child, I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I see it now, but at the time, oh man, I made them wrong, and I got in arguments and got thrown out of the house. And and my dad and I, we had a number of breakups during this period, because I'm like, I'm like, your generation is responsible for blah, 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 blah. You know, like the whole like baby boomer install thing. And, you know, I know there's a healthy way to do it. I didn't do it the healthy way. I did it the like nasty, ugly way, where I'm like saying, you know, calling my dad these bad names, and, you know, and not being as overtly mean to my mom, but being like passive aggressively, like, you know, get away from me. Like you can do nothing for me. But, and that's actually, I'm going to swing around to that. Like this kind of like this third pivot point is like learning to embrace a lot of the stuff that I cast off. And so, you know, I was in this like spiritual existentialist bypass for like 7 years. And like, it was like, you know, transcend the body, transcend markets, just completely, you know, give myself to the absolute. And one day I'll become enlightened, and then I'll be teaching or whatever. Like that's how I thought it was going to go for me. And who knows? I mean, we all might become enlightened, but
whatever that means, right?
Yeah, whatever it means. Yeah. And then so when I met Jonathan, that's like Jonathan Gustin, and we did our purpose work together. That's when like the second piece hit. We're like, oh, wait a minute, I've been ignoring this entire lower world. Like, you know, Bill Plotkin talks about the seed assignment here on earth, like what I'm put here to do and be, and like what is the ecology and my place inside of it? Like, how do I inhabit my soul here? And so when that work came online, that was the second piece. It was like, okay, I'm no longer not escaping in the upper world of meditation and philosophy and all that, but I'm actually like descending myself, like rooting myself into my relationships, into my community, into my craft, you know, into my career. So that has been a series of openings. So like as soon as that soul connection was established, it's just been the most amazing wild ride, romantically, professionally, and it's like you know, Michael Meade talks about like, you know, pulling the golden thread, like that the upavita, this like thread that runs through your whole life, and so as soon as I started pulling that with doing, you know, purpose discovery work, and we'll get into some rituals and practices about how to stay on it. That's when literally like my life, like when I stopped hating everything I was like basically Tyler Durden. I was like, I'm gonna burn this place down, and I'm only gonna, I'm only gonna be God. Like, how ironic that you can't be God while you hate everything.
There's a there's an oxymoron in there somewhere, right?
I know it was totally wrong-headed, right? So my purpose journey was, I would say, the second big pivot. Like when I was like, oh, you mean I can actually use all these skills around strategic thinking and business development and like writing and public speaking. I can do all these things that I had kind of cast off before, and to make a difference and like actually live my spirituality, live my soul's purpose. And so that's been bringing me back into the middle world. It's having me like go, create great relationships with my parents, and romantically, and cleaning up all the messes that I made with my exes, and taking care of my body in new ways, and it just kind of doing a lot of, like, from the outside, like if you looked at it, you would say that's a pretty normal 40-year-old guy. Like, he's got a fiance and a house, and like he's got good relationships, and he's got good friends, and there's nothing that remarkable about it. But for me, it is. It's like I'm actually creating my life in this very soulful, intentional, purposeful way that actually doesn't look that extraordinary, other than maybe the books I write or the programs and stuff like that. But like, for me, it's a breakthrough. It's like I'm pivoting back home. Like I get to be just a regular guy who loves his lady now, and so that's I would say, like, the third pivot is coming back into the middle world and like having high integrity relationships. Yeah. Just integrity, really.
Would you call that integration? What would the word, if there is a word to describe that, bringing those two, in essence, bringing the three things together, but not having at the beginning perspective on the other two? It's kind of tough to tie that together.
Yeah, it is. And I see people try to do that a lot. They try to like integrate their mindfulness practice with their job selling real estate, or with their, whatever it is. It's just like I see people try to like reconcile like the cognitive dissonance between like this undivided reality and then like who they have to be to actually make money. And it's hard. It's really hard, because they're just, it's like Puritanism. They don't want to mix. Like, work and play can't be the same thing. Whereas I feel like when you add that third piece, that purpose piece, the stool starts to balance, and you can kind of, get closer and closer to integration. Now, again, I'm only at the beginning, right? About 2 years ago was when I realized that my path forward wasn't going to be being more spiritual or being even a better purpose guide. For me, it was like I needed to do a bunch of leadership integrity work, like just shoring myself up such that I am the demonstration of my message and my vision and my mission. Because like 2 years ago, Adam, it was not pretty. I mean, like, finances all out of whack. The home life was a mess, and it was like I was compartmentalized. And so I would say, like, as a result of a lot of these leadership programs I've been doing, like, that's like I'm starting to actually like be that kind of expression of my purpose or my spiritual path.
Right. Embodying it more.
Yeah.
That's great. And, most people, they kind of, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's the ego or it's just the perception that you should be perceived a certain way, don't always kind of state that the thing was a mess, and wasn't a mess 20 years ago, but even 2 years ago, right? Yeah. Which is a blink in time, like 20 years, but that there's that element of mess, I know my life is messy. Even today, we're building a brand new business out of the, sort of the ashes of an old business, or at least an old business relationship. And, there's mess involved in that. It's just, you're creating, and in the creation process, shit's going to fall on the floor. I mean, like, you're going to carve a statue, and the floor underneath the statue is going to have a lot of debris on it. I mean, potentially, things get chipped and broken, and it's just messy. So appreciate you going there and saying that. So I want to see if we can't tie some of this together, because I think you identified, in marketing terms, you really have to know what pain you're the solution to, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't identify clearly in the marketplace what pain you are solving for people, you're not going to be effective at getting people to follow anything you
Absolutely.
say. So you identified a pain of folks that are wanting to, have both, have the, what may be that level of higher consciousness and purpose driven awareness come together with what they do to earn money. Like, they still want to be a conscious person, but they also don't want to be living as a monk. They want to still live in a big, beautiful home or whatever it is. So they want to take great vacations, and they don't want to have to worry about money.
Mm-hmm.
So is there some wisdom or experience you can share on that topic, whether it's dialing in on the purpose side, or just what can you say about that? Because that, I think, is a major challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah. So I really, the only thing that I think makes sense, and this is why I am the carnival barker of purpose. It's like when people do purpose discovery work, when they work, one-on-one with a guide, or they do, an effective program, the particulars of what their life is supposed to look like get revealed. So their craft, like what is their life's work, their unique genius, the way that they transform people, like what that thing is. Because once you know that, because that basically tells you who you're supposed to serve, what you do to them, what they look like when you're done, and then also like who your masters are. So who you're supposed to be learning from, so you can get better and better and better at this, like for the rest of your life. So that, at the end of your life, my life, we are, we're like Newton with his calculus, or we're like Melville with his Moby Dick. Like we have these things that we've given our life to, that everything that we're doing, whether we're watching a movie, we're interacting with our children, like we're constantly, there's always like one ear that is like, how is this going to like move my work forward in the world, my impact, our reason for my being in the world forward. So, I work with a model that has 10 different aspects of purpose. It includes mission, it includes vision, it includes your virtues, and then it includes your life's work, so your craft, this thing that you do, as well as your, what you're great at, and the things that you get to experience flow, like being fully aligned, fully in the moment. And then like, what is the cohesive story that both ties it all together and also ties you to the world, to your worldview. So when that kind of high definition understanding of your purpose comes into view, then it's like, oh, of course, like there's like an organic outpouring. Like, yeah, it is just that thing. I don't have to think about all the different things over here. What Adam's purpose is, or what Oprah's purpose is, or like, I don't have to like, there's no sense of competition anymore. There's no, just like, oh, I just need to like perfect my craft and bring my vision into the world and listen to what breaks my heart and contribute my efforts towards it. So I like to think of it as like your personal religion. Like it's your code. I have a colleague, Cynthia Hendricks, who talks about your cadre. It's like the boundary by which like you're going to live your life. You're going to stay in your lane so you can function like at the highest level inside of that. And
so are you saying that it is giving you greater focus, because when that becomes clear, you can be laser focused, and that is a big issue for people, is that they kind of bounce all over the place, and their head is spinning constantly, and then just don't ever seem to be really concentrating or focusing on any one thing.
Yeah, it's focus. I mean, I often talk about what you get out of purpose, and that's like clarity, confidence, courage. I mean, like, so the vision of your life is revealed, and to get to that, actually, there's a bunch of middle world stuff you got to deal with, like the fears and limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff that's kind of kept people like inert or on the sidelines, like doubting whether or not they should or they could or they even want to, or like, will they make money, or what will people think? All that stuff gets dealt with. So you really have the confidence to go forth with it. And then the courage to ask. So as soon as like it becomes clear and you're not encumbered by all that stuff, the mommy daddy stuff, fears, limiting beliefs, you just start asking for it. You start asking for big things. Like you do it in your prayer. You do it with the people who are going to be your masters in your craft. People who are going to help you advance your mission. You just start enrolling people and saying, "Help me do this awesome thing. We're going to change the world." So, yeah, I think purpose is the missing thing. I mean, a lot of the research points to that. Like, there's University of Pennsylvania research says that like 97% of Americans view purpose as something important to have. You have to have it. But then, on the other hand, the Imperative NYU research comes out and says that only like 30% of our whole workforce is in any way connected to their purpose.
Yeah.
So there's like this 70% gap where people want this thing that they don't have, and they know it. Like they can speak it, like, I need my purpose, and they don't know how to do it. Like
there's a lot of other polls, statistics that reveal very similar information on the side of what people are, how many people are not engaged at work and are, in addition to being disengaged, are actually looking for other work, or not, not loving what they're doing, not even thinking they're going to stay there forever, that kind of thing. And it's also been, come up and been really relevant regarding millennials more recently, that millennials, and we have a bunch of millennial age kids, and just that piece. So what can you say, or anything come to mind in regard to millennials and that question of purpose?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I can do it any better justice than Mark Zuckerberg did at that Harvard commencement address. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I'm going to write that down. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and share it with your kids too. I mean, like, it's my judgment that what Mark did in that half hour was, it's not yet regarded as like this big moment in human history, but I think this was like, like a Martin Luther King type speech. That's like the significance, because Mark basically said that like, this is like our generation, our task is not only to find our own purpose, because if that's all we do, it's just as self-indulgent as the boomers' desire to have two houses. It's like our task is to create a world where everybody gets that. So like millennials, and Mark, probably the most famous one, are really about not only their own purpose, but like, this whole system's got to work. Like, It can't just be me, like, loving what I do and, performing art and like serving people. Like, actually, like, the whole thing's got to change. So millennials get that in a way that, boomers and Gen X don't. Now,
and Simon Sinek, I don't want to interrupt the flow of your thoughts. So please just, are you okay to hold that for a second?
Yeah, sure.
All right, wait, cool. And then Simon Sinek is on the other side. Now, I dig Simon Sinek. I've recommended Start With Why, as I'm doing right now, to a lot of people. And yet I watched his, interview, which got, another 4 or 5 million hits and all that kind of thing. So great interview about millennials, the problem with millennials. And I think a lot of what he said made sense. And yet there was no silver lining. It was quite, I think, an indictment of the millennials as a whole. I don't think it was very much positive that came out of it. That kind of whiny, needy, me, and, got to have it my way. And I need a latte as I work, and all that kind of stuff. And kind of saying that they don't like to work hard. This is a group of people that don't want to really struggle or work or kind of get sweaty in the process. And I'm not saying that's entirely untrue, but he certainly didn't bring out what you just said, Mark Zuckerberg said, which is that they also have a vision. And I got kids this age, and I know at least as our kids go, their vision for the world is beautiful, and what they want in the world is beautiful. And do they not want to sort of commit the sins of the past and do the stupid things that that have led our world to the place where it is at the moment? When we look at the things that are challenges, I think they do absolutely see something grander, and are not necessarily willing to tolerate just the status quo, that has gotten us this far. I mean, great that it's gotten us this far, but so just are those two things reconcilable? Is Mark Zuckerberg and Simon Sinek, are those things, they reconcilable?
They absolutely are. And the way I hold it is that, like, the boomers, the postmodern generation, they infused all of these values around equality, sustainability, justice, and that just became part of the water. But so many of them ended up selling out, right? Ended up, cutting their hair and, going to work for the man and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't blame them. But the damage was done. Like, the floodgates were open. People were like, hey, like, this is awesome. Like, but what do we do about it? And so my generation, Gen X, clung to, punk music and grunge. You're like, we're just going to be angry for a few years and then we'll go back and go work in an office. But what I think makes the millennials unique is that they have a sense of possibility that I don't think we had, at least my generation had, like with punk and grunge and all that. There was like more like, oh, it's all empty and hollow. It was like really dark, like Donnie Darko type, this sentiment that, like, oh, the whole thing's got to die. Whereas this generation's like, no, it's on us. Like, boomers failed. X hasn't shown us anything yet. It's on us. And now, do they not want to do mundane office jobs that don't make the world a better place? Absolutely. Like, the research is saying, like 70% of them, like, their work has to be the expression of their purpose, which is awesome. It's phenomenal. And may they always hold us all to that standard. Like, hey, this doesn't express my purpose or my values. Now, I think we put probably a little bit too much focus on them, because Gen X and boomers, like, we have more knowledge, more better networks, and more capital. And we're coming into the question at the exact same time. So, like, I'm 40. Like, my colleagues are now, they're dealing with some version of an empty nest. There's guys who've made partner at whatever firm. They're like, this is it. And then obviously the boomers, our parents are retiring, and they're like, I kind of want to blow my brains out. I have to think about playing. Let's do this thing. So,
hey, you cut out right at the moment where the punchline of, I'll blow my brains out, and if I got to do this thing, and then it cut out. So what did you say right there?
So what I was sharing is that that we have these boomers who are, like, kind of getting sick and tired of retirement. Like, so, like, my mom, for example, she was one of my first purpose guiding clients, by the way. And she's like, I can't be retired. This is empty. It's silly. I don't want to drink margaritas and watch the sunset all the time. Yeah. Like, what I want to do is make a difference. And so we got boomers coming online, Gen X waking up, and millennials. Everyone's, like, coming into the same question at the same time, saying, like, let's find our soul's purpose. Let's work together. Let's create a world that actually allows each of us to live and contribute, with our purpose, make our highest contribution.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really not, it's just not a black or white thing. I think that was the thing that disturbed me a little bit about Sinek's interview, was it just, there was no other piece of it. And I thought to myself, does he have kids who are millennial age? And I'm guessing not. And I thought, because if you have kids that age, then you're going to know them a bit better than that. And I agree. I think I haven't checked out that Zuckerberg commencement address, but I'm going to, and I'm going to share it with our kids, and I'll post it in places where other people maybe like me haven't yet gotten it. So awesome. Way cool. Wow. This has been a great time together. Is there anything more that you sort of, something you'd like to share that you think kind of encapsulates or ties this up in in some way?
Well, yeah. I mean, the last thing I'll share is that, like, even if you don't want to, like, or you're unsure about whether or not you want to find your purpose, just, like, look at the science. I mean, there's so much science out there that says that if you know your purpose in life, your life is going to get better. So all the things you already care about, better health, better relationships, a career of leadership, impact, fulfillment, all that stuff that you want, like, purpose is the door you got to walk through to get to it. So you can go to scienceofpurpose.org, where I've collected a lot of this research. You can obviously go to my website too. And yeah, I'm happy to support any of you who want to walk this purpose path.
So scienceofpurpose.org, bunch of research there, which is great. Mm-hmm. And then your website is what?
It's just brandonpeele.com. So
okay. So just go ahead and spell it out so folks can get that.
It's BRANDONPEELE.com.
Beautiful. Fantastic. .com, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brandon, what a pleasure. Loved having you on. I know this topic is going to be around and with us and relevant in our world for a long, long time. So again, I think what's great is that the more people we get to share this with, the more that, they get to experience or at least ask themselves, is my experience how I am experiencing myself being right now? Is this the highest expression I can conceive of, or that's possible for me? And just that stream of sort of questioning what you're here to do. What's the work that you're here? Is it just all random, or was I actually brought here for a reason? Is there an assignment for me? Don't have to have the answer to the question. It's in many ways just the asking of the question which invites the answer. So I love the fact that that's what you're committed to, because I don't think there's anything more important right now than for people to be doing that work. No downside, right?
No downside to it.
No downside, only upside. Awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Everybody, have a beautiful day. As always, I wish you, all of your heart's desires, and that you wake up tomorrow morning, God willing, you wake up, right? What's more important than that? To wake up spiritually, physically, mentally, on every level that you wake up. And then, of course, know that in the moment that you're taking that first conscious breath of the day, there are people who are taking their very last breath, which makes that moment sacred. And that in that moment that is so sacred, you have something tangible and real to be grateful for. And if you, in that state, wish to stand up, put your hand on your heart and declare, I love my life. Again, it's a powerful intention. And we've shared that with a lot of people around the world and got great feedback that things just kind of shift when you're willing to give yourself that level of self-care and self-love. So I wish that for you tomorrow. I wish that for you every day. And until next time on The Conscious Pivot, we'll see you soon. Ciao for now.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.